I'm so excited to be joined by Fran Fisher today. Fran was my first ever coach, trainer, 18-ish years ago. I went to my first coaching training with Fran, and I'm so grateful for that. Fran is a master certified coach. She's a visionary leader, international speaker, published author. She specializes in mentoring experienced coaches for their PCC and MCC accreditations. She is recognized internationally as one of the pioneers in our field. She's founded one of the first coaching schools, which I am so privileged to have been able to attend, that was accredited by the ICF. She served as founding executive board member. She's been serving as an ICF credentialing assessor since 1998. Fran's vision is a world where everyone is enjoying a rich and fulfilling life, living true to their essence, life purpose, and values. She believes this is what the world needs of us, to be true to ourselves. And that coaching is the contribution we make for this transformation in our world. So, Fran, thank you so much for joining me today.
Oh my gosh, you just bring back the memories, Allison, of those early days. Thank you. Thank you.
I'm I'm so grateful. I took the time this morning to go through the handout that you so generously gave us. And it was the first time, when I went to coaching school with you, we did a kind of a version of that. And yes. I came up with a statement, and you know what, Fran? And I remember that statement, and I hadn't come up with a new one in 17, 18 years. And I came up with a new one today because of that exercise. And
Cool. Good for you.
I'm grateful. So let's get into it a little bit. So when you talk about calling forth greatness, what are you talking about when you speak about greatness?
Thank you. Well, for the nature of my business for the last 30 years has been, this has been the nature of my work. And it was guided by, and this is some context, I'll answer your question. It was guided by these three questions that humanity has been asking ourselves, since the dawn of consciousness. Who am I? What is my purpose? And how do I live it? Right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Right. So for the benefit of today, when I use the word greatness, to me, it's synonymous with the essence of who I am. And so that would include my core true nature, the pure nature of myself, not this developed personality, habituated person who, with all these coping skills in life to protect myself from getting hurt. I'm talking about the core essence. And so I have been helping people, facilitating them and discovering, like yourself, that essence and creating powerful statements that they can own within themselves and live true to as empowering in way to empower ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
Well, let me put it this way. I've had a motto that says the key to living the life that you love and doing the work that you love is living true to the essence of who you are. Mm-hmm. That's where our power points are, our point of power that we can draw on to live from, and not get confused with the difference between the created self, and we'll talk more about that. But that includes my core values, my core strengths, my empowering beliefs, my true authentic vision for the world, for who I want to be being in the world, my life purpose, my life mission. Those are included in that core nature, that essence of who I am. And Allison, I would like to bring up the definition from Deepak Chopra, because it's a beauty. Let me share the screen here.
Mm-hmm.
New share.
Looks like you're sharing your screen, but I'm not seeing anything yet.
Okay, well, let's bring up the PowerPoint again.
There we go.
And okay. Look what Deepak Chopra says. Essence, the unified field of all possibilities, of pure being, pure awareness, pure consciousness. The more we live from this field of pure being, the more our doing expresses it. And so that's why I say our being leads our doing. So when we know who we are at essence, we can live from there, and that will have an impact. Are we frozen, Sarah?
You're fine. Keep going.
Oh, okay. That has an impact on how we're showing up and the impact in the world around us. Yeah. Yeah. So what's important about this? I've hinted at it, that it's the key to having a life worth living and being who we want to be being in the world. So what I've discovered in the last 30 years in helping people access the essence of who they are and discover it and articulate it in an I am statement or a word or a phrase or a symbol even, that calls forth their highest and best. And the impact for people who do learn to live true to the essence of who they are, they live more meaningful lives and they make more fulfilling contributions in the world. And they experience more freedom to be, trusting themselves and trusting that the world is a safe place to be their authentic selves. It helps them access their creativity more fully and their confidence, and experience more ease and more joy in life. Okay. Yeah. So today, with the use of this worksheet that I sent out, we can ask for some comments and specific questions about their experience. And I also have a tool that I want to share. I call it the 5 qualities tool, that everyone will be able to take home today and apply for themselves, with their clients, in the world, in their work. It's a beauty. Yeah.
Well, thank you. Sorry, I lost a little bit internet connection, so I'm glad you got all that. You came back, so thanks for that.
We missed you, Allison.
Well, I knew that you were doing awesome things as I was gone, so it's all good. So, and if I'm going to ask you a question you've already covered, feel free to say,
Sure.
Done that. So you've been working with people, coaches and clients for years and years on how to discover and live from their essence.
Yeah.
What's the difference you've seen that make in people's lives and importantly, particularly to this audience, to their coaching?
Well, and I did touch on that, so I'm going to build on it. Okay.
Great.
Yeah, thank you. So, for example, and we're going to talk about the I am, and we're going to visit this this handout today, this workbook. I thought I would share also an answer to your question, Allison, that in fact, ask you first.
Yeah.
What did you notice about having that I am, those guiding statements? How did they serve you in your life and your work?
Yeah. So I'll speak to that, but over the last 17 years and today, what shifted for me today
Cool.
is, so I carried around for 17 years this statement of I am, and it was clarifying, and it was empowering, and it was kind of unifying. And, it was Margie Summerscales Hyler, who I also know because of you, thank you very much, and trained with many times, and is so awesome. She was like, Allison, maybe I'll revisit that. Like, maybe you've already lived into that vision. Maybe you're there already. And she was absolutely right. And I didn't go back and change it. And I did this morning. And the experience I had this morning was, it was like I just breathed new life into myself.
Oh, lovely.
That's the biggest thing.
Lovely.
That's what I can experience.
Well, and you're reminding me that my first I am, calling forth my greatness, I used to say, I am the bringer of the dawn.
Oh my gosh, that's a bit bigger than that.
Yeah. It was bringing the light, and consciousness. And one day, one of my faculty members said, Fran, you already brought the dawn, for heaven's sakes. What's next?
What's your next act?
So I revisited, and I got help because I couldn't do it myself. It's so hard to see ourselves at essence because we've got all these limiting beliefs and inner critic and all these, filters in the way. And so I couldn't do it by myself. I needed the help, and I had the assistance of wonderful experts to assist me. And I came up with the one that's been serving me for many, many years now. I am divine inspiration. Lovingly calling forth essence. It's who I'm being and what I'm doing, right? It's just, that's the core. And what also serves me is the answer to that second question, what is my purpose? So that's what I call my I am statement, my essence, my vision of myself at my highest and best. Okay, so my I am statement, I am divine inspiration. My purpose is what I do that empowers me to be divine inspiration. Okay, the being and the doing, two sides of the same coin, me, the being and the doing. And remember, the being leads the doing. So what serves me, what empowers me to be divine inspiration? Well, my purpose is to let divine love and light shine through my body, mind, and spirit. Let, that's the key doing. Let. That's when little Franny gets out of the way and accesses her divine design. It brings me back, regrounds, recenters, brings me back to the truth of my being and shifts me out of, I've seen some of these questions. Some of our folks today are asking, well, what if I get triggered? What do I do? This is what brings me back to present moment. Take a breath, pause, right? Recenter, reground, and reconnect. And then from that space of being, I have an impact. Let's bring it to coaching when I'm in a coaching session. When I'm in a coaching session, I am that sacred space container for my client. And in that sacred space, they have the opportunity to call forth their own greatness, to access, to discover and call forth their own greatness. Yes? Yeah.
Yeah. So I just, the power of this process, I just can't, underscore enough. So the handout that Fran gave for this, which is in the chat box, if you haven't, like, all I did this morning was to spend like maybe 45 minutes, 30 minutes, 45 minutes going through it. And I don't know, I had the benefit of working with Fran through this, 17, 18 years ago. So I had some of that. And I tell you, Fran, I just kind of organically with the benefit of your experience, my experience with you 17, 18 years ago, I'm sorry, I'm going to mute somebody because we're getting somebody coming through there. Yeah. Okay. Is what I came up with is I am a holder and creator of generative space. And then just really organically, I came up with the purpose, like I didn't even know was going to be the purpose, but what supports me in being a holder and generator or creator of generative space, I trust the universe to unfold in a way that contributes to the greater good.
That's it. Who
And
you're being.
Yeah, all that happened completely organically.
Well done.
Yeah, well, I just followed your directions. Yeah.
Well, let's check in with our friends here today and listening in later. Let's check in on what's the question how did this serve you today? Those of you who spent some time with us, what did you notice? What did you discover? What did you appreciate about this exercise?
Great. So let's go to Sarah. What's in the chat box? And if any of you want to raise your hand and just share what's coming up for you or what questions you have, we'd love to hear that. Sarah?
Yeah, Pat's asking, what are the keys to knowing if I am in touch with my essence?
Oh, great question. Great question. So notice is the key word there. Okay, so what's the exact question again?
It says, what are the keys to knowing if I am in touch with my essence? Yeah,
so it's a function of awareness, and as you know, what we learn as coaches is being aware of the subtle ourselves. So we're self-managing and aware of who and how our client is being. So it's having that intentionality of self-awareness and also other awareness. Okay, so with self-awareness, we might notice that we've disconnected from the client. First clue, I'm disconnected. I'm in my head. I'm scrambling to ask that next question. Maybe that ends up bringing up a fear or some anxiety. Maybe there's a negative emotion. So noticing, maybe the inner critic is talking to me. The inner critic has got some, oh, I can't do this. I'm not capable. I'm not good enough. Whatever those messages are. So that's the noticing, and it could be a physical clue. Noticing a physical clue. Now, for me, my shoulders will come up, and when I'm recentering with my I am, they drop down. Mm-hmm. And that's been lifelong. The shoulders are up and I'm unconscious to it. So I'm really, so intentionality about noticing. This is our work. These are our practices in life. Working on, these opportunities to notice within ourselves and bring ourselves grounded and back to center.
Yeah. Thank you. And Pat, for me, what I notice is I'm either grasping after something or I'm resisting something. I'm wanting something to change or I'm resisting something that is. And those are two clues for me. Carol, you've got your hand raised. what's your question?
Hi, everybody. Hi, Fran.
Hi, Carol.
I'm also a coach trained by Fran about 25 years ago, and have been using my vision and purpose ever since in my coaching and in my life. And I just wanted to share that I'm an artist, and I share through symbols. So Fran said we could use symbols. So this is a symbol that I did from my vision of who I'm being in this year. I did it for this year, 2021. And so my statement is, I am living in the moment, listening to my intuition, allowing flow and ease to guide me to the highest unfolding of my life.
Woohoo!
And that's my focus. So what I'm doing is I'm just what you just said, when I find myself reaching and grabbing and actually trying to control, that's my thing. Oh God, I'm always trying to control something or my life, or I just look at my mandala. I just look at my mandala and read it every morning and remember that I am listening to my intuition and letting life unfold. So it's powerful. And Fran knows that I love to do art and mandalas. And so I've been doing this with myself and others and finding it really powerful for everybody.
And fulfilling for you, my dear. Yes, beautiful.
Yeah,
Your beauty shines through.
Thank you.
That's so amazing, Carol.
Thanks
you
for
so
sharing,
much.
Carol. Love you.
Love you. You guys, you can do it really simply. You don't have to do it really fancy either. You can just do a really simple drawing. It doesn't have to be a major process. But like when Allison was doing her 45 minutes today, I would have a notebook there that you can just doodle in and come up with a symbol that just comes right on through.
Oh, thank you, Carol, for sharing with us how it's done.
This would be a good time, Allison, to share this tool.
Let's do it.
Yeah, it's called the 5 Qualities tool. And I actually, and if you'll indulge me, I wrote out my sharing of this because, true confessions, my dears, I have a tendency to make long stories longer.
And you know that about yourself.
I know that about myself. So in the benefit of time today, I actually wrote out my introduction to this tool, and then we can go to Q&A about it, obviously, and comments. So, and I'm happy to send this out in writing too, and you can send it to everyone. So this is a practice that, as Carol said, you can use, like she does with her mandalas and I am statements, to start your day. You can use it to prepare for a challenging situation that you might be. I have, here I go, I have an executive client who prepares his 5 qualities before he goes to meet with the board of directors. He's a little nervous. He centers himself by identifying his 5 qualities of who he wants to be being, as an example. Now, no more, no less, 5. Okay, it's magic. Okay, and these are 5 qualities that you choose to be. Spit it out, Fran. Okay, and when I learned it, I was taught to actually write these 5 qualities with a ballpoint pen on the palm of my hand. And that, because when I learned this, I was standing on a speaker, what do you call it? Up high on the podium, in front of 160 participants. And so it was very private for me to have it to help ground me. I could glance down if I was feeling a little wonky. All right, so I'm doing it. I'm expanding. Okay, so yeah, so that's a way to kind of embody it like a tattoo, but you can write yourself a little sticky. In fact, look at this sticky here. See this sticky?
Yes, the two
These are
large-
my five qualities that I prepared for today, and I'm going to tell you what they are. Fun, lightness,
Yes.
passionate,
Hmm.
fully present,
Hmm.
and free flowing.
Oh, I feel that.
That's the choices of qualities that I chose for who I want to be being with you today.
Hmm. Hmm. Thank you.
So that's how it works. All right. So qualities of being. Here's some examples: bold, compassionate, courageous, kind, caring, qualities of being. Okay. So I have a client who sets her being, she calls it, I set my beings every morning using this tool. And sometimes she writes them on her hands, and other times she writes them on an index card or on a sticky, or she'll carry it in her purse or her pocket. I told you about my executive client already. I use this tool. I want to share the background on this to really underscore the power that's available in this tool. Tapping into the power of intentionality for sure. So I used this tool once when I was really stretched and I had a lot at stake in my mind. I was delivering a coaching skills training in a different country to people who spoke a different language, working through an interpreter to an audience 10 times larger than I had ever worked with before. Really stretched. So I picked my being qualities, and what I chose was transparency, authenticity. Now, those are easy for me. Those are natural, and I get feedback on those all the time. My stretch, the next one was playful. That was a stretch for me. I used to get heavy and significant in front of audiences. Playful. And my fourth one was clarity, because I was really challenged up till then in giving clear directions for exercises. I just would mess them up, and they weren't clear and organized and hard to follow. So clarity. And then the fourth one was a word that I called containment. Containment. What I wanted, and this was my stretch that I challenged myself with, I wanted to be able to contain whatever showed up in that room. Now, here's where the magic happened. So that's how I wanted to be successful and how I wanted to show up. And I wrote them in the palm of my hand every morning for this 4.5-day course. And I kept myself conscious of those intentions. And I also held them privately. No one else knew. Okay. At the end of the course, many of the participants lined up to acknowledge me on their way out the door. And imagine my surprise when most of them acknowledged me using these words in English, not in their language. Transparency. You were so transparent, Fran. You were so authentic. You were so playful. You were so clear. And one of them said, the ability for containment stood out for me. Containment.
Wow. That's not random.
Isn't that something? So we call this the 5 qualities tool. And so this is a tool you can use to prepare for a coaching session. Who do you want to be being? Creating that sacred space for that client, for their greatness. Where does sacred space come from? That's my definition of coaching. You probably all know that. I think I even put it in here. In this workbook.
It's beautiful.
Coaching is the sacred space of unconditional love where learning, growth, and transformation naturally occurs. It can only occur if that client feels like they're in a safe environment. And so safety. What would be, let's put this out to our friends here today. What would be any of your being qualities that you would set for yourself before you go into any coaching session.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Let's see
We
what
just had
shows
a
up.
great question. So,
Okay.
Sarah, if you could be watching the chat box for that, we'll come back to that. We just got a question from Pamela about like, we talked about our I am statements, which are, if I'm understanding, a description of our essence, right?
Yes.
So are the 5 qualities, do they change over the time? Do they change based on the situation? Are the 5 qualities like connected? Is
Both
there
and.
between the 5? Okay.
Both and. So they can be situational. Like these were my situational for today.
Got it.
Okay. I created these and I have them on the sticky here to support myself. Okay. I also have over here, I have a sticky of 5 qualities that are guiding me since I was recovering from my surgery and radiation treatments last year. I said, you know what? I'm done with all this attention on my body and recovery, and it was just consuming me. And I said to my coach, I want to discover the thing that I want to shift my attention to that will call me forth to what's next and who I want to be being, and, you know, and reconnect with that. And what I discovered in my coaching session, bless her for the fabulous coaching, shout out to my coach, was, oh, it's not a thing I want, it's who I want to be being, experiencing life and me and who I'm being. So here they are, I'll show you mine. So these are my long-term, they've been posted here for many months. Fully present, grateful, compassionate, joyful, and peaceful. And they calm me down, Allison. They calm me down and they bring me back to essence. Yeah, so they're another tool, right? I have my vision and purpose, my essence and purpose statements. I have those as a tool. I have my 5 qualities. I have my situational, these are, you know, intentions that I set. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, let's go to Sarah and
Okay.
have her read some of the
Let's do.
qualities.
Yeah. So Anna said learning partner. Cello said compassionate. Deborah said direct and open. Evelyn said authentic listener, positive, creative. Jennifer said present, curious, open, in grace, and grounded.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah. Frederica said,
Unassuming. Good
yes,
one. Yeah.
authentic, open, and caring. So many good ones.
Yeah, I love that. And I would think this would be really super easy to do with a client, right, Fran? I mean, it's just like,
Yeah, absolutely.
bring some, you want to just really briefly talk about like how you tee this up with a client?
Well, usually I hear an opportunity where this tool would really serve them. And I ask them if they'd like to, like, of course, they always say yes, you know. And then what I do is I tell them the story first, because it really engages the awareness of the depth and the power of this tool. And then I describe the, you know, and the rules, you know, 5, no more, no less. You know, and how you can focus on them and how you can bring and so forth. And then they apply it either in their life or in their coaching, or like with my business clients, my executive clients, they'll prepare themselves for presentations. It's got such a broad application.
So some of the questions we got during registration around our essence was that like, how do I know when I'm not being my essence, or when I'm feeling like I'm not being my essence, or I'm getting hooked? And I'm wondering, like, if there might be a connection. I know obviously awareness is the first, but if I go into, say, a coaching session with my 5 things, I'm curious if it can also add as like a diagnostic when I'm feeling hooked, or I'm wondering if I'm being in my essence.
Exactly. And you know, and let's come back to that. What I would like to do, this is coming up intuitively right now,
Yeah.
is really to share the power of the I am. Okay, because those are tied to the father. This is who I am choosing to be. Okay, and so I have just 2 slides to bring up. Let's see, how do I do this? Share screen. Excellent.
It seems that the challenge with the 5 qualities would be keeping them conscious. Yeah, for sure.
That's right. That's right.
Sure.
And keeping them conscious, and so this takes intentionality in preparation and possibly designing practices. Practices that you can take on and design for. We can take on and design for ourselves in our daily life, and set up accountability, for those practices. So this is about introducing you to the power and the deep, deep, deep meaning of these words, I am, and the impact that's available. So actually, the words I am, translated from Sanskrit, is actually Om. Om. It's the highest vibration of the God vibration in our speaking language. And it's God and it's that first movement of thought into action or expression, because our words have energy, right? They put energy into motion. So when we say I am, we're saying Om. And Saint Germain, there's a whole set of books. I have one of them called the I Am Discourses. These were channeled in 1935. I'm going to flip to that page and read you a quote about the I am. And I've got this. I wish I could get this out of the way. There we go. This is channeled Saint Germain, an ascended master. Stop giving power to the outer conditions, persons, places, or things. And every time you find yourself starting to say, I am sick, I am broke, I am not. This is listening to that inner critic, right? You are throttling the great presence within you, right? Our essence. Instantly reverse this fatal condition to your progress and declare silently with all the intensity of your being, your I am, which is all health, opulence, perfection, happiness, peace, and power, to recognize the perfection in yourself and everywhere else.
Mm-hmm. It's beautiful. So we got
Saint Germain was the founding father of the United States of America. That's where the am came from. Our founding fathers actually brought in this energy when they called our country America.
Wow.
And the other thing that I want to share about the power of the I am is that, and I invite my clients to create a breakthrough intention statement using the I am, so that they're stating their breakthrough in a way that they're bringing that future state that they want to feel and experience and manifest into the present moment feeling. So it brings, when we say I am the pure expression of divine inspiration. Well, some days I'm not so feeling that. And yet when I speak it, I'm bringing that future state into the present moment and into my body so that I'm feeling it. That's part of the manifesting process. And then here's Moses asking God, who are you? And God says, I am that I am. Well, when I was in Sunday school, I said, that's crazy. What in the world does that mean? You know, it took me years and years and years to understand. It's whatever I say I am. That's who I'm being. So what am I going to claim about myself? The core truth of my essence. That's who I want to be being.
Mm-hmm. 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 Beautiful. So we got a question in the chat box about so I am so all in on what you're saying, and it so aligns with my belief statement. And some of us have these executives that are kind of about facts and figures, and who would find kind of what we're talking about kind of on the woo-woo side.
Yeah.
And so how do you work with those kinds of more, say, analytically driven clients?
Yes. Well, of course, my stand for coaching is that we get to the underlying, you know. So if my client says, I want a strategy, I want a plan, you know, yeah, that's what they want, and that's what they think they want. And I start testing it out to see if they're willing to go there. So when you have that strategy, what will be different? What will be different in your work, in your world, when you have that? And if we really give them the silence and the space to look and help them look from that different resource than in their head, well, I'm going to feel more confident. That's what they really want. That's the underlying. They want to feel confident taking this plan into the boss. Right? So that's what we can set up to measure. How confident are you right now? You have the right strategy. That's the outcome they want. We're going to go for that. We're going to design that strategy, and yet it's going to fulfill that level of confidence that they're going to be feeling. So I begin to introduce this. I don't talk in woo-woo terms, but I ask them, what do you want to be experiencing when you have that? Questions like, imagine a year from now, you've had this and you've been living with this thing that you wanted. What's going to be different in your life, in your work? Or after you make that presentation, what's going to be different? Or as you walk into that room, you know, I help them really get into the somatics, the head and the heart. You know, what does your heart want? What does your intuition want? What does your gut want to be feeling? You know, or experiencing, if the feeling word is too squishy. Mm-hmm. So I hope that that's somewhat helpful.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Any other thoughts?
Absolutely. Sarah, we've got a couple of questions, I think, in the chat box. Can you tease those out for us?
Yeah, I sure can. So Art wants to know, and I think you touched on it just a little bit, but how Fran addresses a material relative to a client's faith, background, and spiritual tradition.
Oh gosh, I ask them if they have what belief empowers them, or guiding principle empowers them. I learned that about my client, and I use that. If I know that a client gets a lot of empowerment from their particular faith, then I'm helping them own that and utilize it and draw on it.
Mm-hmm.
Does that answer your question, Art?
We can go on while he's answering in the chat
partly.
box.
Thank you.
Thank
Partly.
you. Is there more, Art?
Well, you know, I have to think. The reason I said partly is I've got to think about the idea of calling that forth from the client and where that could go organically in the context of this material.
Mm.
Yeah.
And
well,
so that you didn't give me the answer I can just run with, Fran.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
You gave me the you gave me the answer.
Formula, Art.
Yes. You gave me the answer I have to struggle with. So thank you.
Bless your heart. Oh, bless your heart. Well, I do. I like to find out what their personal guiding principles are and support them in living true to those. Okay. And how can they apply them, and what qualities would they need to be being in order to hold true to those.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I start with what do they believe? Like
Right.
what do you believe? What's important to you? What
Yeah.
is what? And then I don't introduce mine. I work from theirs.
That's right.
Yeah. Joe Gregory, I see your hand. Hi, Joe.
Yeah, I just wanted to share a comment on that. So it's not a question, but when before I started my own business, when I was an executive and I had a coach working with me, how he approached it was from a results standpoint. What kind of results do you want to get, right? Because that's how I was wired.
Yep.
And then how he shifted, how he transitioned the conversation was walking me into exercises around when you've gotten similar results in the past, how did you show up? Who were you being, right? And we crafted, and he went into my personal life, as well. So, and I have it framed on my bookshelf here that I'm a happy, confident, powerful being of light. So this was working with me as an executive. But it started off with results, right?
Yes.
And if I show up as a happy, confident, powerful being of light, I tend to get good results in my life. When I show up irritated and pissed off and all that, I tend not to get good results. So that's how you can transition the conversation.
Thank you, Joe.
Executive.
Thank you. That's so helpful.
That's terrific. Okay, so let's do this. So we've got 10 more minutes. Fran, is there anything in terms of content that you feel like if we just don't share this 1, 2, 3 minutes, we will not have completed what we wanted to do?
Well, I do have some questions that were submitted before today, and they were of a genre of what makes knowing our essence difficult, what makes coaching from our essence difficult, and what are we doing when we're not coming from our essence. So I actually made some notes on those so we could honor those questions that came in. What makes, and I touched on a little earlier, what makes knowing our own essence so difficult? Well, for me, it's all those filters, the coping skills that I've developed, my inner critic, that ongoing voice of I am not, my fears, my limiting beliefs, I'm not good enough. And we get confused. We think that's who we are until we reach a body of work like this, where we can understand there is a distinction, and we can start separating ourselves, like using a sifter and a sieve, and sift out who do I choose to be being. These qualities are all within every human being. The consciousness is all there. We can choose, we can pick and choose who we choose to be being, and we can call those qualities forth situationally or long-term, whichever, in ways that empower us. They're all true. They're not like I'm a wannabe. They're all true, and we can give them our intention and our attention. And so it can be a learning process. Okay, bottom line. Coaching from our essence can be difficult because we're still attached. We're still attached. And this whole journey from the first coaching course, training course we to passing our MCC and beyond is about letting go of ego, attachments, habits, letting go. My own beliefs, getting self out of the way, that takes a lot of letting go of ego. So those habits, preferences, attachments can be what makes it difficult for us, or challenging, to be in our essence in our coaching environments. What are we doing when we're not coming from our essence? This will be no surprise. We're not listening. We're not being fully present. We're driving our own agenda. We're attached. a lot of times our direct communication offering an observation will turn into a teaching point because it's something that we know we want to impart. And I'll tell you what, this brings up something really personal for me. My process was making the journey from feeding my ego to feeding my soul.
Mm. Mm.
And how that played out was I used to be straight A student. Kids would come, my students, the kids at school would come to me for answers, and I loved it, especially when the boys came to ask me questions. It's like, oh, goody, I get to be the expert, and I was feeding my ego. So when I, decades later, started learning about coaching, it did open up that deeper truth that I believed that that's not who I want to be being, is feeding my ego. And when my clients, I started practicing getting myself out of the way, and my clients were at the front in the limelight, not me, it was soulful for me to be feeling fulfilled that they were getting the results for themselves. So the shift from ego feeding to soul feeding.
Mm-hmm.
So it's about letting go. And when we're making assumptions, like TC said earlier, when we're making assumptions, we're in the way.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I love that. When I've done this work with my clients and created I am statements with them, they'll often ask, Allison, is this who I want to be, or is this who I am? And I respond, yes.
Yes, exactly.
Yes.
Exactly.
Yes. And it takes them a while to get it, but then they do.
Well, I know you have some things you want to cover to wrap up as well. And so maybe instead of bringing up this last slide, the 5 guidelines for living true to your essential self, I'll read them, or do you want me to bring up the slide? We got 4 minutes.
Either way. Whatever.
Well, I won't take up the time. It's in my slides if anyone wants them.
Okay.
Okay. And also what's in my slides is the having a coaching mindset in the revised core competencies, and how that applies to the being aspect too. That's there as well. So if anyone wants the slides, let me know. All right. So the 5 guidelines for living true to your essential self. Number 1, discover what it is. Go on that discovery process within yourself. Use this worksheet as a tool, and hire your coach to help you look, and ask your friends and all of that. So discover your essential I am self. Number 2, make empowering choices daily that honor your life purpose, your empowering self, your core beliefs. Make empowering choices. It may take some courage, but that has an impact in the quality of your life when you do. Maintain daily practices. Number 3, that empower your well-being, that feeds you. Number 4, maintain supportive structures and empowering relationships. No tolerations. Serve yourself and your well-being. Honor yourself as your sacred self. And number 5, live heart-centered and love who you are being.
Yeah.
Love yourself. Be compassionate with yourself and others.
Love that. And love yourself. Love yourself.
Love yourself. Love, love, love.
Yeah.